Welcome back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, Colton Toll. We are now in what the seventh-ish week of the high school season, maybe the eighth by the time you are watching this, but we are in the point where the statistical production and results has yielded us enough that power rankings of official nature are coming out. The way that this all works out during the regular season, the voters vote, the voters being the secretive cabal of sports writers and digital and media, old-timey personalities all coming together to email John Maffey their popularity picks or whatever the hell you want to argue on Twitter about. But none of that actually amounts to anything because none of that goes anywhere in terms of actual seeding. CIF has a formula that they use that has been hotly debated, but they use it, and it comes out after week 6 of the season with the official rankings. Some of this looks a little bit different than others. But before we get to any of that, let's get to a quick word from our sponsor, the U.S. Army. Welcome to the D4 video. Thank you again to our sponsors, the U.S. Army. Colton Toll is going to get to his couple of teams. I'm going to get to my couple of teams. Let's share so we can do some list radio. And here is what the actual Division 4 playoff picture looks as of today. La Jolla Country Day. Also, can I shout out to the back-end production from Ron Marquez here? This is a nicer website than it used to be. Everything's getting pretty clean and nice looking here. Country Day, Fallbrook, Mission Bay, Palo Verde, Calexico, Montgomery, Coronado, Parker, Mount Miguel, Kearney, Sweetwater, Hilltop, Chula, Holtville, Westview. That's what you see right there. That's not what it's going to end as, obviously. This is just a look forward, though, at what we think mathematically could end up happening. The La Jolla Country Day season, they just had a big one everyone's been a big one. But they just beat Coronado, who's down at that 7th seed. They beat them by a decent enough margin to maybe give an indicator where they are at, considering that a lot of their other early season competition has been a division below them. They still have Bishops, SFC, and Parker, which are all going to be tough games, but I don't see La Jolla Country Day dropping a whole lot. I can make a case for that being an 8-2 team by the end of the year and like no lower than 3rd.
They've set themselves up nicely.
Fallbrook, I can't say it enough that they beat Ramona. So we need to pay attention to this. They beat Ramona. They put up 67 at one point this season. They held Sam Cooper to 14 points. They've still got Valley Center, Escondido, San Pasqual, and RBV. So some tough games to play. So they've still got some tests and they've still got some wiggle room maybe, but growing confidence in every week with the Fallbrook Warriors to the point where I start to say that I'm not questioning whether or not they're making like the playoffs. And I'm now like, is Fallbrook going to get a home game? Is Fallbrook going to get what is Fallbrook looking at in terms of their maximum upside? They have strength of schedule going for them. So yeah, like if that team is 6-4 in a worst case scenario, I still think they're a top 4 team just in terms of how the metrics play out for everybody else. Palo Verde Valley, they've transitioned nicely up to Division 4. They took a really hard L early on this season. And they since then have been moving back and like I'm filibustering here for a second to get to the stats. I want to say it's like several hundred yards per game for several dudes. Yep. Yeah. More than 3 players, like almost 4 players in triple digits offensively per game. Still on the schedule for them. They've got Vincent Memorial, Calipatria, Holtville, and Southwest El Centro. So chalk up that Vincent Memorial game to being tough, just because it is tough to play a team that's good, no matter what division they are. The rest of that, very winnable. So for Palo Verde to go from champions of one division down up and have a returning senior class that can maintain and get them a home game in the playoffs, I think that alone is a W for the season. I know they will say that's falling well short of what it is, but I think they can maintain up there. Looking below that 1 through 4, Montgomery has been doing it with backup quarterbacks and low scoring games. And there's something I like about
Love it.
like that it factor, if you will, of like you can keep getting
You can win games like that.
Yeah.
Finding a way. That's all it's about is finding a way.
Yeah. Coronado, speaking of finding a way, Coach Hines and his squad have been finding a way to be in the conversation every year, the last couple of years, as they've progressed towards like the ultimate goal of being a championship caliber program. And they are in the conversation. They've got Hoover, Claremont, Crawford, Kearney. All 4 are competitive and winnable games that if Coronado can survive and go 3-1 out of those 4 or something like that, I could see enough change and turnover here that they can sneak up into a top 5 seed, get a home game. I think Parker has some tough scheduling ahead to still be able to fully right that ship and flip up into a home game, but I think they are a bubble team. Below that, Kearney is going to keep producing huge offensive yards and would be a team that I would be like, hey, even if they have to go on the road, I don't think that I would be completely counting them out. Like they could definitely be the road doggy of the opening round of the playoffs. Colton, I've been talking too much though. So who are some teams out of this Division 4 playoff that you're looking at?
Yeah, like we mentioned, Montgomery, I think like what they've done is incredibly impressive. They start off the season with a 7-point loss to Coronado, a 13-6 game. That's just an ugly game. They ended up losing. They've won 5 straight since. You don't win 5 straight by accident, and you don't win 5 straight close games like this. They have a 6-0 win against Santana, a 12-7 win against Mount Miguel. Their biggest win is a 26-14 win over a really good El Cajon Valley team. And most recently, they actually beat the number 3 team, Mission Bay, 9-6. That's a huge win for them. You got first week of the season is really hard to decipher what goes on. That's an ugly loss to Coronado, who's one below them. It just shows, I think, how close the middle pack of D4 really is. That I don't think anyone really stands out in that part of the rankings, but all those teams are pretty meshed well together. They can all win any game at any given time. But Montgomery's finding a way to win. I think when it comes down to playoffs, all that matters is finding a way to win. That's all you can really ask for. Hilltop down at 12, I think, is a sneaky good team. They have an ugly loss to El Cap, 9-7. They've lost to Bonita. Most recently just lost a game up in Escondido. That's a hard drive. That's a hard game. They play Mater Dei next week, so that's going to help their strength of schedule. Then they come back away with league against Sweetwater, Olympia, Montgomery. That Hilltop Montgomery game at the end of the year is going to be extremely fun. I think there's a good chance it's for the league title at that point, and whichever team wins that game is going to get huge points in the rankings. So that's going to be fun to watch near the end of the season. Like I said, we just said the same thing with Coronado. Big games coming up. The Hoover game, the Crawford game, definitely going to be fun to watch. Mount Miguel at 2-3. I like what they've seen so far. I think this is a team that not a lot of people talk about, but like I said, they're down at the 9th seed. There's always that one team that's ranked in the bottom of the rankings, and they do something crazy come playoff team. I would keep my eye on Mount Miguel.
Yeah, it's hard with the division that we are looking at. Divisions 3 and 4, I think, have the most fluidity in terms of strength of schedule. Like, no shade on any of these teams, but Palo Verde is not playing Ramona.
Yeah.
Fallbrook is. Coronado, Montgomery, Clark, like they all go in these crazy different directions. So it can be really hard to look at there and be like, yeah, Parker and Mount Miguel at 2 and 3. But then you look at the tape and you're like, okay, those 2 and 3 are against difficult. It's very, very hard to do the football analysis job at this point. But appreciate your help with this, Colton. This is how it looks right now. We will be back as we close in on the playoffs with more looks at this, because this is actually what really matters and not necessarily our shtick and nonsense in terms of the voting. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks to the U.S. Army for their support. Talk to you guys later.